Although the technology is still in its early stages, book-style foldables appear to be where the premium end of the phone market is headed. Samsung is leading the way with its Galaxy Z Fold lineup, but it is not alone. Honor entered the fray early last year with the China-only Magic V, and quickly returned for a second go. That phone was the Honor Magic VS, and after a few months of waiting, it's finally making its way to the rest of the world. The VS is more of a midlife refresh than an entirely new model, with a larger battery and more powerful hardware while maintaining the same trio of competent cameras and inward-folding OLED display as before. It's about as high-end as an Honor phone gets, but given that it uses year-old components, will it be enough to raise eyebrows at the Samsung factory? When folded shut, the Magic VS is a few millimeters thinner and weighs less than the Galaxy Z Fold 4. In addition, the outer display has a more traditional 21:9 aspect ratio, as opposed to the skinnier screens seen on Samsung's Galaxy Fold phones. Add in the redesigned hinge, which allows the two halves to close together without a gap, and it feels like you're using a regular non-folding phone before you open it. The usual metal and glass combination holds it all together, with a mirror-like finish on the frame and a textured mat on the back that isn't quite as slippery as regular glass. You'll still want to keep a firm grip on it. The rear camera module protrudes somewhat, but has rounded edges to avoid catching on your clothes when pulling the phone out of a pocket. The hinge opens smoothly, feels sturdy even when only partially opened, and there are no visible seam gaps at either end. Honor claims the mechanism can withstand 400,000 folds, or 10 years of normal use, though we're only 0.001% of the way there. What we do know is that the crease on the inner screen is still visible if you look for it, though it doesn't stand out in normal use. You can bypass the lock screen by using a side-mounted fingerprint sensor, which detects your digits quickly, or by using face recognition. The lack of a 3.5mm headphone jack is unsurprising for a modern flagship, and the dual-slot SIM card tray is incompatible with microSD cards. That means you only get 256GB of onboard storage. The spec sheet makes it clear that the Magic VS is a phone-first foldable. Aside from size and resolution, the outer display appears to be superior, with a higher refresh rate and higher brightness. With a thumb-friendly 21:9 aspect ratio and wonderfully vibrant colors, the 1080p resolution OLED looks the part. The inner display measures 7.9 inches and has a resolution of 2272 by 1984. It has excellent viewing angles, vibrant colors, and does not feel overly plasticky like some other foldables we've tested. Even in bright sunlight, the coating does a good job of reducing reflections. When you run your fingers over the crease, you can still feel it, but it's a subtle sensation. Both screens support HDR10+ videos, with clear highlights and deep shadows made possible by the OLED panel's inky blacks. There's also stylus support, which was missing on the original Magic V, though we didn't have one to test during our time with the phone. It's a shame Honor has limited to 90Hz the refresh rate on the internal screen, as it puts the phone behind the latest Galaxy Fold. However, because of the wider aspect ratio, we found ourselves using the outer screen a lot more here, and only switching to the inner display for watching videos, reading, or multitasking. The Honor Magic VS had one of the most powerful mobile CPUs available when it was released in China. Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 continues to blitz just about anything in the Google Play Store, be it apps or games, and can multitask without breaking a sweat. This is useful for a foldable, where doing two things at once on the larger internal display is a big draw. Non-folding competitors, on the other hand, have begun to appear with even more powerful Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chips inside. These run cooler and use less energy while providing more gaming power. However, closest competitor Samsung is unlikely to release a new Galaxy Fold until July or August, and flip-style foldables like the Oppo Find N2 Flip use MediaTek silicon. This provides Honor with a reasonable window in which to compete with existing book-style rivals. We noticed no stuttering or slowdown while swiping between home screens, loading apps, or browsing the web. Even with most detail settings cranked, games ran smoothly at good frame rates, and apps don't need to redraw very often, even when you have several on the go at once. Side-by-side split screen uses a pop-out shortcut bar, and floating windows are a useful way to multitask, although we'd like the option of a horizontal split as well as the vertical one seen here. You don't get the app dock Google introduced with Android 12, but once you get the hang of the shortcut system, it's a breeze to use 2 apps at once on the inner screen. The 5000 mAh battery capacity is a 10% increase over the previous Honor Magic V, putting the Magic VS on par with traditional flagship phones. We saw between 8 and 10 hours of non-stop YouTube viewing on the larger internal display before needing to plug in, but that's not a typical use case for a foldable. Using the outer screen primarily for social scrolling, taking photos, making calls, and a little gaming will keep you going all day, even if you throw in some video playback or web browsing on the inner display. That puts it ahead of the Galaxy Z Fold 4, which we discovered may require its power-saving mode to get through to bedtime. There is no wireless charging, which may disappoint some, but wired charging is sufficiently fast. The phone's maximum power output is 66 watt, and Honor includes a power brick in the box. A full fill-up takes less than an hour, and a quick 20-minute pit stop usually yields at least 50%. The Magic VS has the camera hardware that you'd expect from a folding flagship. For capturing plenty of light, there's a 50-megapixel main camera with an f1.9 aperture lens and a sizable Sony sensor, as well as 2 additional cameras. The first is a 50-megapixel, f2.0 ultra-wide with a field of view of 122 degrees. This is significantly wider than some competitors, allowing you to pack a lot into every shot. In some cases, we found it too wide, effectively zooming so far out from our subjects that they became lost in the larger scene, though the camera app allows you to digitally zoom between 0.5x and 1x to compensate. The second is an 8-megapixel telephoto lens with 3x optical zoom and an aperture of f2.4. That may not be a particularly high pixel count, but it is sufficient to deliver consistent results in good lighting. There are also 2 punch-hole selfie cameras, one on the outer and one on the inner screen. They both have 16-megapixel sensors and are suitable for video calls. The Magic VS main camera, like all current high-end phones, takes convincing photos in almost all lighting conditions. The exposure is usually well judged, there's plenty of surface detail, and each shot isn't overly sharpened to achieve it. We were concerned that it might overdo HDR in particularly bright scenes, resulting in images with more shadow detail than rival phones but being less true to life. When you look at the pixels, it doesn't have the outright clarity of the best competitors, but the natural-looking colors still have a lot of impact. Despite its low pixel count, the telephoto impresses at its maximum optical zoom, with more delicate image processing and clearly defined details. Optical image stabilization comes in handy here. Exposure and color are also handled well, so you'll be happy to post any photos you take with it to your Instagram feed. This is also true for the ultra-wide, as while it cannot fully preserve the background details of expansive landscape shots, any foreground elements are crisp and clear. We noticed a lack of image stabilization on the main lens at night, with shots necessitating a very steady hand to avoid camera shake and blurry elements. The exposure is well balanced, and the colors appear natural, but the detail is hit or miss. The telephoto lens performs better here, but it can be thrown off by brighter light sources. It's a solid performer all around, if not quite up there with the best, even in the foldable world. The Honor Magic VS is a serious contender in the foldable phone world, with properly premium looks, a great set of cameras, and a very respectable battery life. Samsung should take notice, and everyone else has a lot of catching up to do. It also demonstrates that Honor has successfully escaped the budget entry-level niche it was previously pigeonholed in, and has emerged from the shadow of former owner Huawei. This is a premium phone in every way. There are a few features missing that would truly put it on par with the Galaxy Z Fold 4, such as wireless charging or a water resistance rating, but hopefully that will be reflected in the price. The Magic VS will be priced at €1,599 in the European market, which is comparable to many of its competitors.